On July 8, 2014, a 28-year-old German tourist sprinted out of the Varna Airport terminal in Bulgaria, fleeing an invisible enemy. He abandoned his passport, his wallet, and his cell phone, scaling a 10-foot barbed wire fence before disappearing completely into a massive, dense sunflower field. This is Lars Mittank, the subject of the most watched missing person footage in human history, whose final moments remain a terrifying forensic paradox. Today, we dissect the minute-by-minute timeline and the medical anomalies behind a case that defies psychological explanation and standard police protocol. We aren't just looking at the security video, we are analyzing the unreleased phone logs and the toxicological variables that drove a sane man into madness. The timeline begins 1 week earlier, when Lars arrived at the Golden Sands Resort with a group of close school friends for a standard summer vacation. Friends described Lars as entirely normal, relaxed, and showing absolutely zero signs of depression, anxiety, or erratic behavioral tendencies during the trip. However, the entire trajectory of the vacation shattered on July 6th, following a minor altercation at a local bar over football team rivalries. Lars, a fan of Werder Bremen, got into a heated verbal argument with rival fans, which supposedly concluded peacefully before the group left the establishment. Later that evening, Lars separated from his friends to get food, disappearing for several hours into the dark, unsecured areas of the beach resort. When he finally returned to the hotel, he possessed a severe rupture to his left eardrum, claiming he was ambushed by men hired by the football rivals. His friends offered to stay with him, but Lars insisted they board their scheduled flight home the next morning while he sought emergency medical clearance. A local Bulgarian physician examined the ear injury and explicitly warned Lars that the atmospheric cabin pressure of a commercial flight could cause permanent deafness. The doctor prescribed an antibiotic called cefuroxime 500 milligrams, a standard medication used to prevent severe bacterial infections in open cranial wounds. With his friends gone, Lars checked into the Hotel Color, a cheap high-risk establishment located in a notorious high-crime neighborhood of Varna. Almost immediately after checking into room 205, Lars' psychological baseline deteriorated into a state of acute, terrifying paranoia. At midnight, he placed a frantic, whispered call to his mother in Germany, desperately claiming that 4 men were actively hunting him down. He commanded his mother to instantly cancel all his credit cards, whispering that the hotel staff was compromised and watching his every movement. Security cameras inside the Hotel Color captured Lars pacing up and down the narrow corridors, hiding in the elevator and looking out the windows. At 1 a.m., he left the hotel entirely, wandering the dark streets of Varna for nearly an hour before returning to his room to gather his bags. He sent a final, cryptic text message to his mother, asking her a chilling question. What is cefuroxime 500? Suggesting he suspected poison. At sunrise, Lars hailed a local taxi and drove directly to the Varna Airport, arriving hours before his scheduled emergency repatriation flight to Germany. Upon entering the terminal, he appeared significantly calmer, carrying his heavy duffel bag and backpack as he searched for the airport medical clinic. Dr. Kosta Kostov, the head airport physician on duty that morning, admitted Lars into the examination room to officially verify his fitness to fly. For roughly 45 minutes, Lars sat quietly in the chair, explaining the ear trauma and showing the physician his prescription medication. Dr. Kostov noted that while Lars was anxious about the flight pressure, his cognitive functions and vital signs appeared completely stable and normal. The entire situation shifted violently when a construction worker dressed in high-visibility safety gear entered the room to discuss terminal renovations. The moment Lars saw the uniform, his eyes widened with absolute, primal panic. He stood up abruptly, shaking uncontrollably, and shouted in German. He screamed, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here," refusing to let the doctor touch him again, leaving all of his personal belongings, his passport, and his phone on the medical desk. Lars sprinted out of the open clinic door. This is where the infamous CCTV footage begins. Lars emerges from the terminal entrance at a full Olympian sprint, moving with terrifying speed. He doesn't look back once. He navigates past the airport taxi bays, the parking structures, and the terminal barriers like a trained athlete. Airport security personnel watched him run, assuming he was a shoplifter or a passenger who had simply experienced a sudden mental breakdown. Lars reached the outer perimeter of the airport grounds, where a massive 10-foot-tall chain-link fence topped with razor wire blocked his path. Without breaking stride, he threw his body over the razor wire, climbing the structure with such adrenaline that he didn't feel the cuts. On the other side of the fence lay an expansive agricultural field filled with thousands of towering, 6-foot-tall sunflowers stretching for miles. Lars dropped into the dirt, ran directly into the thick green stalks, and vanished from the physical world. He has never been seen since. Within 48 hours, German authorities and Bulgarian police launched a massive joint search operation, utilizing drones, dogs, and thermal helicopters. They systematically combed the entire sunflower field, checking every square foot for blood, torn clothing, or footprints left behind by the fleeing man. The search returned absolutely zero forensic markers. No broken stalks, no cellular signals, and no biological tissue were ever discovered in the area. Investigators shifted focus to the antibiotic cefuroxime. Could a standard secondary medication trigger a severe acute psychotic episode in an adult? Rare medical literature reveals that certain cephalosporin antibiotics can cause severe neurological side effects, including acute hallucinations, paranoia, and panic attacks. If Lars suffered a rare adverse drug reaction, his brain would have perceived the construction worker as an immediate, lethal threat to his life. But private investigators hired by the Mittank family discovered a darker alternative involving human trafficking syndicates operating out of the Varna port. The Golden Sands Resort is a notorious hub for illicit drug distribution, and Lars may have accidentally witnessed a high-level transaction on the beach. This explains why his initial attackers didn't rob him. They targeted his ears specifically to prevent him from leaving the country via commercial air. Additionally, why didn't the highway surveillance cameras along the A2 motorway pick up any sign of a man walking out of the field? To walk from that airport field to the nearest town requires crossing a highly monitored commercial transport corridor lined with digital security arrays. Over the years, numerous sightings of Lars have been reported across Europe, from truck stops in Germany to remote farming communes in Brazil. Every single lead has concluded in a forensic dead end, with DNA testing proving the individuals were merely doppelgangers or transient lookalikes. The case remains officially open, a chilling reminder of how easily a human being can evaporate from a heavily monitored modern society. Did Lars succumb to exposure in the deep wilderness, or was he intercepted by the very forces he spent his final hours trying to escape? We have analyzed a declassified Border Patrol log from late 2014 that notes an unidentified nonverbal male matching Lars' exact physical profile. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. The search for truth continues, only here on Forgotten Clues.